Hey everyone, I'm Ian. With the 28th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog having just occurred, let's completely ignore it and talk about Knuckles.
This red little fucker first appeared in Sonic 3 before being playable in Sonic & Knuckles, which is the same game, I guess, because of the lock-on and stuff. But he wasn't playable at launch, only after the Sonic & Knuckles cartridge came out, so whatever. Point is, he appeared early in the days of the Sonic franchise, and along with the likes of Dr. Eggman and Tails the Fox, is considered a staple member of Sonic's cast of characters.
And what happens when you have a massively popular character in a series like Sonic? Well, a spin-off, of course.
Yeah, the Sonic series has given games to major characters a few times. Tails had a few games on the Game Gear, and Shadow had his own game too before he became a meme god of bad Sonic games. So it's no surprise that Knuckles got in on the action as well, with the 1995 release Knuckles Chaotix for the Sega 32X.
This game has never been re-released in any official capacity, which is strange considering the fact that Sonic CD, the other Sonic game for a Genesis add-on, and even oddball titles like Sonic the Fighters are still distributed to this day. The only way to play this game officially is to track down an original copy and a Sega 32X, which I have, so let's give it a whirl.
But first we gotta hook up the 32X. So take your Genesis and, oh, what's this? You have a Model 1 console? Well, you'd better hope you have the special adapter to connect the 32X AV plug to your system. You do? Great! Step 1, take the metal forks out and stick them in your cartridge port.
I'm not doing that.
Step 2, plop the 32X into the cartridge port, then take the AV pass-through cable and plug it into your Model 1 adapter. Then plug that into your consoles. Then run the AV out from your system to a TV. Now all that's left is to plug it into the wall. Hope you have outlet space, since if you want to have your Genesis, 32X, and Sega CD all connected, that is 3 separate AC adapters with external power supplies. And with that, you're all ready to go. Unless your 32X pins are dirty, in which case take it all apart, clean it, and start all over.
Fuck. That only took me 13 hours. Let's get started.
After a Sega splash screen, we're greeted by Metal Sonic rushing at us, then our traditional title screen shot of the playable characters, and man, this is great. The colors are so vibrant, and the title theme is awesome. Definitely a strong start. After choosing a file and selecting New Game, we are transported to a tutorial level where, as Knuckles, we see Eggman jump into a giant ring, and then we get banded to Espio over here. I see.
Yeah, let's get into the story real quick. It's basically your standard Sonic fare.
Eggman finds an island and discovers the Chaos Rings, which serve as this game's Chaos Emerald style collectible. He turns the island into a giant theme park resort-based thing, which is apparently called the Neutrogic High Zone. And Knuckles heads over because apparently it affected the Master Emerald somehow, I guess. Whatever, he ends up finding Eggman fucking with Espio here, then he discovers the other Chaotix just chilling in the combi catcher at the giant claw machine. With that, the heroes set off to stop Eggman and snag the Chaos Rings. And that's just the story in a nutshell.
I still don't know why the characters got banded together like that, and I'm sure the information's out there, but I just don't care.
Anyway, back to the tutorial. The game introduces itself relatively well, and in my opinion, the tutorial does an awesome job representing the game as a whole, in the sense that it looks and sounds nice, but isn't very fun.
Okay, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here. Let's start breaking down the gameplay a little bit.
The game is basically another 2D Sonic game, except without Sonic. There are a few characters to play as though, who, with one exception, all basically play like standard Sonic characters, with speed and a spin dash, although they all have some character-specific moves. We have Knuckles, obviously, who functions much like he did in Sonic 3, with a glide and wall climbing. The Vector can do a mid-air dash in any direction and climb walls, while Espio can, climb walls. I think that's all he's got, actually. Mighty is just Sonic with a Mega Man X-style wall jump right down to his sprites and animations. The real outlier here is Charmy the Bee.
He breaks the game.
He can fly wherever the hell he wants, and by mashing the jump button, he can actually damage enemies while doing so. He's good. Too good. I barely used him. From the moment you pick a character upon loading a save file, you then pick another character with the Combi Claw, who acts as a follower. I guess you can say it's an evolution of Tails following Sonic in 2 and 3, except here you're actually stuck to said character via a sparkly elastic band. The first thing you might notice with the game's controls is that the momentum and general movement feel kind of off. Like, they work and everything, it's fine, but the characters just sort of barrel forward and gain speed regardless of terrain as long as you keep holding left or right. It leaves the game feeling a tad more sluggish than other Sonic games of the era. This simplified physics system, though, is definitely a necessity, given this elastic band bullshit.
I think everyone knows that this central mechanic is the main complaint most have with Chaotix, and yeah, no, it's pretty lame.
Not only are you attached to this character who rubber bands off of you, but you are also beholden to their physics as well. Selectively. Typically, when you're on the ground, your partner will fling around like mad, but ultimately not really affect you. You can hold in a button to have them stay in place, which allows you to use them as an anchor point to fling yourself around wherever you want, which admittedly works fairly well and can be kind of fun. You can also hold the other character in your arms, who will remain in spin jump form. This lets you completely ignore the rubber band mechanic and just blow through enemies, since they'll die upon contact. It's nice, but it does limit your mobility a little bit.
So it seems like the partner system isn't so bad, right? Well, that's because I haven't mentioned mid-air travel yet.
Jesus, mid-air travel is a nightmare. Both characters have equal influence over each other when jumping or hitting a spring, which is pretty fucking problematic when the levels really emphasize verticality. You can absolutely never predict how your partner is going to travel, and as a result, you will constantly be flailing around like a goddamn lunatic. It still controls fine for the most part despite these issues, but definitely nowhere near as well as the other Sonic games of the time. The fact that you can't definitively choose your partner is pretty irritating too. See, everyone has different weights and speeds. It's fairly negligible between the main cast, but then there's Heavy and Bomb. These two characters aren't selectable as playable characters, they only exist as partners from the Combi Catcher. Heavy weighs a ton and slows the game down substantially, while Bomb is stupid light and makes things so much more slippery. He also damages you if you get hit. They suck. Fortunately, it's usually easy to just get an actual character during the selection process, but the fact that it's not just a menu is definitely pretty annoying since these fuck-up characters take up most of the slots. It just feels like the game is trying its best to be inconvenient.
Character selection isn't all that's randomized though, so are the zones you play through. That's terrible.
Yep, after getting your partner, you go up to this big roulette bumper thing and hit it to select a stage. In theory, it should stop when you hit it, but let's be real, this thing just does whatever it wants. You then go to the stage that it randomly picks, and there are 5 main zones in the game, which may seem like a small number compared to other Sonic games, but they compensate by making each 5 acts long. That's insane. In a bad way. You thought the zones in Sonic 1 overstayed their welcome with 3 acts, well then you're gonna have a blast here. To be honest, I genuinely think that this is what ultimately leads to the worst elements of Chaotix as a whole, the level design. See, since the stages are played in a sort of random order, the game's difficulty really never ascends beyond that of the tutorial stage. In order to not have a totally unbalanced difficulty, it needed to be basically the same across the entire game, or else you'd suffer from random difficulty spikes as certain zones are more complete than others. As a result, you'll rarely find yourself dying or struggling with the game's stages or enemies even at the very end. It's not super exciting.
And that isn't the only issue with these stages. These may well be the most boring levels in any 2D Sonic game.
They aren't bad per se, but man do they feel samey. While the later Genesis Sonic games focused on speed and CD focused more on exploration, it feels like this game's main focus was seeing how vertical they could get. These levels are always going up and down, which I guess makes sense since everyone has some means of traveling up walls, but it means there's a whole lot of just jumping up and falling down, and there are a ton of springs. That's not great since, you know, the mid-air physics are a little bit broken. The only zone to feel particularly distinct is Amazing Arena, and that's just because every act has this extra objective in the form of turning on the power to the stage. That's lame, sure, but at least it's something.
I don't want to make it seem like this game doesn't do anything right. There are a few things here that I'm a big fan of.
Man, the presentation is great. The stages may not feel very diverse to play, but they all look absolutely stellar. Compared to the other Sonic games on the Genesis, even Sonic CD, this is easily the best looking, at least on a technical level. The colors are so vibrant, and the character animations are just stunning. The soundtrack is phenomenal too. It's not exactly one of my favorite Sonic soundtracks, but it definitely does live up to the standards set by the rest of the series up to this point, with the tutorial-themed Door into Summer being a particular highlight. I also enjoy a lot of what the game does when not directly dealing with the main stages. It's got special stages and bonus stages like other Sonic games. The bonus stages are okay, it's just you falling down a tunnel and collecting power-ups, some of which actually allow you to select your stages and characters manually, which is massively better and does effectively incentivize playing them. The real star here are the special stages though. They look like they were ripped right out of Star Fox and basically play out like a mix of the Sonic 2 half-pipe stages and the Sonic 3 Blue Sphere stages. You have to collect a set amount of blue spheres placed throughout each stage. I do have issues with depth perception here from time to time, but honestly, these may well be the best special stages in the entire franchise. Characters control satisfyingly enough, the amount of creativity on display with the stages is legitimately really impressive. They don't ever feel exactly the same as each other, which is definitely rare for a special stage, and, most impressively, They aren't frustrating.
The boss fights are pretty solid too.
I don't think they're incredible or anything, but they all do play out very differently and are fairly creative. I don't think they overstay their welcome either, yet they are much more involved than bosses tend to be in other Sonic games. Plus, I love these little cutscenes that play out before the fights. It's just super cool.
That being said, it is pretty irritating how there are no checkpoints, so if you die to a boss, you're playing through the whole level again.
Not only that, but there are no lives, period. You're just kicked back to the stage select, which means it's a gamble if you're even going to end up in the same stage to try again. The pacing ultimately feels at its worst towards the end game, since you're statistically more likely to finish all the zones around the same time, which means it almost feels like a boss rush of sorts by the end, instead of having the boss fights be special events. The final fights with Metal Sonic are pretty cool, though.
I do find it really weird that he's the final boss here, though, in a game where Sonic isn't even playable. Why not make a Robo Knuckles or use Egg Robo from Sonic 3 and Knuckles? Instead, Metal Sonic.
Well, whatever. The fights with him are actually pretty great. The first phase involves him locking himself into the stage select thing, and you have to time hitting the roulette bumper thing in order to damage him. That's damn creative, and the fight works well. He then becomes this behemoth for some reason, and once again, the fight is pretty fun. It's not particularly difficult or anything, but he does change up his pattern after every few hits, and the fight does keep you on your toes. Plus, he looks cool as shit. Once you beat him, though, the game is over. Here we can see the bad ending, where Metal Sonic burns down the island for some reason. It's a cool downbeat ending for sure, but why would Eggman have Metal Sonic destroy his own base? It's fucking stupid.
Obviously, to get the good ending, you just have to collect all the Chaos Rings. I intentionally missed out on the very last one during this playthrough so that I could show off the bad ending, but all we gotta do now is reload a save file, get that last ring, and see what the good ending has for us to see.
Wait, hang on. You can't replay levels in order to complete the game once it's done? Sonic 3 let you do that? What the hell is this game's excuse?
Okay, I probably should have looked into that before choosing to beat the game without all the Chaos Rings, but hey, there's no way I'm playing the whole way through it again just to show off the good ending. All you get is this screenshot of all the cast members with Sonic and Tails here for some fucking reason.
And yeah, that's Knuckles Chaotix. There isn't a whole lot more to say. I guess Sonic and Tails are in the credits of the good ending because they were originally meant to be playable. I mean, Mighty is very obviously just a reskin Sonic, and the second slot on the character select in the stage select menu is apparently meant to be Tails. Instead, he's just star, and he shows up as a glitched up Knuckles. I read on Sonic Retro that he would crash the game upon starting level, but I was actually able to complete a stage with him, albeit in a horribly corrupted state. Then the game crashed. Weird.
Yeah, but anyway, that's the game in a nutshell. Do I think it's a particularly good game? No, it's pretty bad. It's not one of the worst Sonic games or anything, but taken on its own for what it is, it's a pretty lame experience overall. That being said, do I think it deserves to be relegated into the realm of obscurity by being a lifelong Sega 32X exclusive? Nah, not really.
The game does enough interesting stuff that I do think it's worth giving a look, even if it isn't a particularly good game. It's bad, but not any more so than a few other Sonic games, and they're more readily available. For the sake of preservation, I hope it gets put on a compilation or something soon. Original copies are going fairly high prices these days, and who the fuck is lame enough to own a Sega 32X?
But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, and join the channel's Discord server. Link to that's in the description below. You can hear me talk a whole lot about Sonic the Hedgehog. If you've played Chaotix, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of it. Seriously, I just want to know if anyone else has ever fucking played this shit. Until next time, guys, I'm LyingTuna, Ian, whatever, signing off.